Welcome. My name is Jennifer Darrien and I'm a consultant bariatric surgeon with Phoenix Health. I'm here today to guide you through your advanced consent presentation for weight loss surgery. Today we will be discussing the more common operations of sleeve gastrectomy and gastric bypass surgery, of which there are two types, the traditional Roux-en-Y gastric bypass and the more modern one anastomosis or mini gastric bypass. In addition to the provision of restriction, and in the case of gastric bypass surgery, a degree of malabsorption, these surgeries also result in an alteration to gut hormone signalling to the appetite centre in your brain. This results in a reduction in appetite, increased cravings for calorie-less dense foods, and an increase in metabolism, resulting in more predictable and meaningful weight loss, as can be achieved with surgeries such as gastric banding, which are not associated with a hormonal mechanism of action. So what are the benefits of sleeve gastrectomy and gastric bypass surgery? Well, they provide a higher percentage predicted excess weight loss at 2 years as compared to gastric banding, with excellent treatment of your diabetes and significant improvement in other obesity-related comorbidities. Let's consider sleeve gastrectomy, an operation that has been around for about 15 years. Sleeve gastrectomy is an excellent operation for savoury eaters. Sweet eaters tend to do better with gastric bypass surgery. Dumping syndrome in response to the ingestion of sweet food acting as an aversion therapy. We will discuss this later. Sleeve gastrectomy rarely causes dumping syndrome, and as such, sweet eating can continue with this procedure. With this operation, we staple the stomach from the bottom all the way to the top against a 36 French calibration bougie. This is used to size your sleeve gastrectomy. The disconnected stomach you see to the right of your screen is completely removed from your body. As such, this operation is irreversible. You are left with a calibrated banana-shaped stomach which offers restriction. The removed portion of your stomach produces the main hunger hormone ghrelin, and as such, following this surgery, your ghrelin levels drop significantly. At 1 year, however, the pancreas resumes low-level production of ghrelin, and as such, at this time, you may become aware of an increase in appetite. No operation is without complication. Weight loss surgeries in general are, however, considered to be safe operations. They have a mortality rate equivalent to that of gallbladder surgery, half that of hip joint replacement surgery, and 1/3 that of knee joint replacement surgery. Drawbacks of sleeve gastrectomy include a lack of dumping syndrome, so no support for sweet eaters, a 65% predicted excess weight loss at 2 years, as opposed to a 75 to 85% predicted excess weight loss with bypass surgery. Sleeve gastrectomy has a slightly higher leak rate compared to bypass surgery. We will discuss this later. Sleeve gastrectomy has a variable effect on acid reflux. To those with no pre-existing acid reflux, reflux can develop. We call this de novo GORD. And for those with existing acid reflux, reflux can improve or resolve. The consequence of untreated long-standing reflux is the development of Barrett's esophagus and its sequelae. We will always endeavour to treat acid reflux in de novo GORD appropriately, thereby preventing future problems. This is the traditional Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. A small portion of the top of your stomach, seen here in navy blue, is disconnected from the rest of your stomach, seen here in teal blue. This stays alive inside your body, and as such, this operation is reversible. A length of small bowel is measured and transected into 2 halves. The bottom half, seen here in white, is brought up and connected to your navy blue gastric pouch to produce your food channel. This join-up is called an anastomosis. Your remnant stomach, seen here in teal blue, produces acid and receives biliary digestive juices which travel along the top half of the transected small bowel, seen here in teal blue. This is your biliary limb. This biliary limb is rejoined to your food channel lower down with a second join-up or anastomosis. Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery offers restriction and a small degree of malabsorption. It is important to remember that the malabsorptive capacity of this operation is small and that significant malabsorption is rare unless there is an underlying complication. The absence of food in your biliary limb results in a change in gut hormone signalling to the appetite centre in your brain, as previously discussed. These hormonal changes are strong for the first 12 months, after which they diminish. Always use the first 12 months following your surgery to adopt a new healthy eating pattern, aiming to enjoy 4 to 6 appropriate eating episodes per day. If this habit can be developed, when the hormonal effects of this operation lessen, it is unlikely for you to experience weight regain. If you have been unable to adopt an appropriate dietary regime, however, for 10% of people, weight regain can be expected. This is the one anastomosis or mini gastric bypass. You have a long, narrow gastric pouch, seen here in salmon pink, completely disconnected from the remnant stomach, seen here in beige. This stays alive inside the body, and as such, this operation is also reversible. Notice the longer gastric pouch compared to that fashioned with the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. With this operation, we measure a length of small bowel, 150 to 200 centimetres depending upon your BMI, and bring it up as a loop to attach onto your gastric pouch. With this operation, there is therefore one anastomosis or join-up, not two. The absence of food in the biliary limb results in a strong change in gut hormone signalling to the appetite centre in your brain, superior to that seen with the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. As such, you can enjoy an improved quality of eating with the longer gastric pouch without compromising on weight loss or treatment of diabetes. When comparing Roux-en-Y gastric bypass with one anastomosis or mini gastric bypass surgery, one anastomosis gastric bypass offers better improvement in diabetes, slightly more weight loss, 85% predicted excess weight loss at 2 years compared to 75% in those with a BMI less than 50. The gastric pouch of the one anastomosis gastric bypass is less affected by ulceration. We will discuss this later. And as it is longer in length, it is easier to revise should a complication occur. With so many positives, the one anastomosis gastric bypass has become increasingly popular, yet it is not suitable or necessary for all comers. The one anastomosis gastric bypass is associated with a 1% incidence of bile reflux. Bile reflux occurs when bile from the biliary limb fails to travel downstream with the small intestine, but rather travels up towards the gastric pouch and esophagus. Patients experiencing bile reflux report a burning sensation in their esophagus and perhaps a sour taste in their mouth. There is theoretical concern that long-standing untreated bile reflux could be associated with the development of esophageal cancer. One anastomosis gastric bypass has, however, been carried out in the States for just under 20 years, with no reported cases of esophageal cancer. As such, this is thought to be more of a theoretical concern. The UK has, however, initiated studies to monitor this closely. Regardless, should you be in the 1% who develop bile reflux, we would not leave you like that untreated, but rather offer a small second keyhole operation called a Braun procedure to divert the bile away from your gastric pouch. People at risk of developing bile reflux appear to be people with bad existing acid reflux. As such, those who require high-dose antacids to treat their acid reflux would not be offered a one anastomosis gastric bypass. Weight loss surgeries are considered safe surgeries with low mortality rates. However, no surgery is completely free from complication. Major early complications of sleeve gastrectomy and gastric bypass include leakages. A leak occurs when tissue along staple lines or at an anastomosis or join-up fails to remain viable at 24 to 36 hours. Loss of tissue creates gaps between staples or suture lines, allowing gastric contents to escape. We quote a leak rate equivalent to or less than 1 in 200. At the end of your operation, we carry out a special methylene blue dye leak test to ensure your staple and suture lines are watertight. It, however, takes 24 to 36 hours to know for sure that the tissue between your staple or sutures will remain viable. We deliberately keep you in hospital for 2 nights to observe you for this eventuality. Bleeding is also considered an early complication of sleeve gastrectomy and gastric bypass surgery, and affects around 1 in 50 patients. Fortunately, bleeding tends to be slow, like a dripping tap, and as such stops spontaneously. We give you 3 doses of tranexamic acid, the military drug used to stop bleeding, at the time of your operation to try and reduce the incidence. It is unusual to require a blood transfusion or return to theatre for bleeding. Death within 30 days of surgery would be considered the third major risk of sleeve gastrectomy and gastric bypass, and occurs with an incidence of 1 in 1,000, similar to that observed with gallbladder surgery. Let's further consider a leak. As previously stated, a methylene blue dye test will be carried out at the end of your operation to ensure your staple lines and suture lines are watertight, or in other words, leak-free. We monitor you for 2 nights in hospital with regular clinical observation and blood tests looking for early signs of a leak. If concern exists, a CT scan or X-ray with oral contrast, as seen in the picture, can be performed to confirm the diagnosis. In this picture, you see white dye that has been swallowed, escaping the sleeve gastrectomy at the 3 o'clock position. This patient will require a return to theatre. In theatre, it is important to drain away the leaked fluid. A drainage tube from the area will be brought out onto your abdominal wall into a collection bag. This will likely remain there for a number of weeks until the leak naturally heals. A second feeding tube will be placed into your small bowel lower down to provide you with nourishment, as in the early stages after a leak you will not be able to eat or drink. You can go home with this feeding tube if necessary. You will also require treatment with antibiotics. Other early complications include blood clots in the legs or lungs. You will go home with an injection which you will learn to self-administer, designed to thin the blood. This significantly reduces the incidence of clot formation. Infections are unusual, but would include chest infections, urinary infections, and wound infections. Treatment inclusive of chest physiotherapy and antibiotics will be provided if necessary. Damage to other organs is rare, as is conversion to open surgery. Anaesthetic risks occur as with any operation. Smoke cessation is necessary to prevent respiratory complications. The main problem with Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery is ulceration and scarring, which occurs near the junction of the gastric pouch and food channel. So in the picture, near the junction between the navy blue gastric pouch and white food pipe. The incidence ranges from 1 to 16% and is significantly higher than that observed with the 1 anastomosis or mini gastric bypass. The incidence of ulceration and scarring in the 1 anastomosis gastric bypass is quoted at 0.5 to 2%. Risk factors for ulcer formation, as is seen in the picture, include the use of anti-inflammatory painkillers such as ibuprofen or Voltarol and smoking. On a lifelong basis, you must avoid the use of these painkillers and comply with smoke cessation. Failure to do so will result in poorly healing, complicated ulcers that are difficult to treat. Ulcers result in nausea and vomiting, pain on eating, and excessive weight loss. Ulcers can perforate or bleed and form abnormal connections called fistulae to your gastric remnant. Those will require further surgery to correct. Ulcers can also result in narrowing of the join-up between your gastric pouch and food pipe, affecting your ability to eat. Narrowings require to be stretched with endoscopic dilatations to restore normal dietary habit. Later problems that can occur post-gastric bypass include problems with blood sugar. Dumping syndrome we touched on earlier. Dumping syndrome describes an unpleasant collection of symptoms which include flushing and sweats, a feeling of anxiety or shakiness followed by abdominal pains and diarrhea. This occurs in response to the ingestion of too much sugar and acts as an aversion therapy to sweet eating. Not all patients feel this to the same extent. Some feel it too strongly, some not strongly enough, if at all. Most, however, describe being able to enjoy a small amount of sugar, dumping syndrome occurring only if boundaries are pushed. This is helpful in controlling sweet eating. Patients can also experience low blood sugar, especially after the 1 anastomosis or mini gastric bypass, if they forget to eat and skip meals. Regular eating is essential to prevent the consequences of low blood sugar, which could impact your ability to care for a child or work, for example. Peterson's hernia occurs only after gastric bypass surgery, not sleeve gastrectomy. Due to the rearrangement of anatomy, a space opens up behind the food pipe, which can be seen in the picture as the red arrow. Through this space, it is possible for small bowel loops to become trapped and blocked, causing a small bowel obstruction. This occurs infrequently, but does require further surgery to correct. At the end of your operation, we deliberately close off this space with sutures, but for around 1 to 2% of people with weight loss, the space can open up. Nutritional problems tend to develop later after surgery and can occur after either sleeve gastrectomy or gastric bypass. You are required on a lifelong basis to take a daily multivitamin and Adcal D3 tablet to mitigate against this. You will be required to attend for nutritional blood test monitoring after your surgery on a lifelong basis. Blood tests are usually carried out by your GP, but we will review the results. Common vitamin deficiencies requiring replacement cause problems inclusive of anemia, numbness and nerve damage, weak bones and teeth, pregnancy problems, thinning of hair, poor nails and skin. It is essential that you take your multivitamins and Adcal D3 on a daily basis. Common nutritional deficiencies include vitamin B12. 1 in 3 patients will require vitamin B12 injections. Iron and zinc. Occasionally an iron infusion will be required, over and above that of an iron tablet. Folic acid. Important to correct if planning a pregnancy. Other common vitamin deficiencies include vitamin D and thiamine. It is imperative that you comply with blood test monitoring to prevent nutritional problems from your surgery developing. Other important considerations. Loose skin. It is difficult to predict who will be affected by this. Not a problem for the majority, but for a minority they will find it distressing. It may not be possible for you to obtain surgery for this on the NHS. Gallstones. As weight loss continues, 10% of patients develop symptomatic gallstones requiring gallbladder removal. Psychological problems. Although for the majority of patients, psychological well-being improves after weight loss surgery, for a small number, problems persist. These would include an adverse reaction to excess skin, problems with changing body image, body dysmorphia, changing interpersonal relationships, transference of addiction from food to drugs or alcohol, destabilisation of mental health. There's a 15% risk of weight regain over 5 years. Use your honeymoon period for the first 12 months after surgery, when the hormonal effects are at their greatest, to establish a strong new dietary habit to mitigate against this.